अनंत संसार समुद्रतार नौकायिताभ्यां गुरुभक्तिदाभ्यां वैराग्य साम्राज्यद पूजनाभ्यां नमो नमः। श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां नमो नमः। श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां नमो नमः। श्री गुरुपादुकाभ्यां जय जय जगदम्ब शिवे जय जय कामाक्षि जय जयाद्रिसुते जय जय महेश दयिते जय जय चिद्गगन कौमुदी धारे कुण्डली कुमारी कुटिले चण्डी चराचर सवित्री चामुण्डे गुणिनि गुहारिणि गुह्ये गुरुमूर्ते त्वां नमामि कामाक्षी गुरुमूर्ते त्वां नमामि कामाक्षी गुरुमूर्ते त्वां नमामि कामाक्षी। जगज्जननी जगन्माता पाहि मां पाहि मां पाहि मां। तुम मेरी राखो लाज हरी तुम मेरी राखो लाज हरी तुम मेरी राखो लाज हरी तुम जानत सब अंतर्यामी तुम जानत सब अंतर्यामी करनी कछुना करी तुम मेरी राखो लाज हरी। It's all your mercy, my master, not my merit, your mercy. A scripture like Tripura Rahasya, if I'm able to take upon this responsibility to speak, it is only because of my utmost faith in my master, that he shows up every single time to guide my words, to guide the listeners, because he knows what I know and what I don't know. And he knows, Anu, you really don't know anything. Just be quiet. I'll do all the talking. With only this faith, Mahantam Vishwasam Tavacharana Pankeruha Bhavam. I don't just have any kind of faith, my master. Mahantam Vishwasam. the superlative degree of faith. I have that. Tava charana pankeruha bhavam. And I don't have that kind of vishwas in my own self, in my abilities, in my merits. I have that kind of faith in your refuge, that you'll come for me, for others, and you will speak, and we'll all listen. Because you know, I don't know. Narayan. Om Swami, Om Swami, Om Swami, Om Swami. So we are at the 18th chapter of Tripura Rahasya. And this chapter is like a summary that the loving, compassionate Guru gives to his disciple, Parshuram. Not because the Guru has the need to explain, but because the Guru's love is truly like a mother's love. It's just overflowing. He cannot not give. Like the Deepak, the flame, and the light. Light is the nature of the flame. The Kanti is the nature of the Deepak. Similarly, Guru's love, his compassion is like that of the light. It knows no bounds. It knows no conditions. It just gives and gives. So here Dattatraji elaborates and really again gives the very essence to Parshuram. He says to Parshuram, now you've heard it all. Before I give you the Vidya Gita or the Sri Vidya Gita, which is nothing but the instructions given directly by the Divine Mother. Let me just elaborate everything for you one more time, Parshuram. Because the love I have for you, you can't even put it under the boundaries of Guru disciple. It is something beyond. And the only love that can come very close to this love is Vatsalya, motherly affection. So out of that, I'm going to give you the very essence of all the teachings so far. He says, one thing I want you to know, Parshuram, is without Purva Janma, Sukritis. Sukriti, Kriti is karma, actions. Sukriti is good actions. Till the time a sadhak or a jeev has not accumulated merits from many, 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 many lifetimes. Aneka Janma Sukriti. Till the time a jiva has not accumulated sukritis or the merits of good actions, such a jiva will not be even drawn towards knowing the truth. So if you are drawn to knowing the truth, know for a fact that the background work has already been done. You have arrived at this point only because a lot of good karma has already happened. Swami Rama describes grace as two parts. He says there is something called the ascending force, and then there is something called the descending force. He says ascending force is your own purusharth, is your own sukriti, good actions. And descending force is grace. When the ascending and the descending force meets, something materializes spiritually. So for the ascending force to meet the descending grace, there has to be some amount of effort on our part, not just some. Aneka janma sukritihi, many good karmas accumulated over several past lifetimes. And this is the main reason we are doing the random acts of kindness. We will first try to understand what Sukriti is, and then we will go to random acts of kindness. Now comes the question, what are good actions? Good actions, which is nothing but Karma Yoga. First chapter is Arjun Vishad Yoga. Second chapter is the entire essence of Atman in one chapter. Third chapter begins the sadhana. First he starts with Karma Yoga. Nishkam Karma. He says, Lord Krishna says, Arjun, continuing to do your dharma without your mind interfering and saying, I really have to do this, but I really don't want to do it. Why? Because I just don't feel like it, or because I don't like it. Arjun, that is dharma. To perform actions that are needed of you without letting your mind interfere and say, I like this and I don't like this, I'll not do this, I'll do this. That's dharma. And that is the tapas. Because your mind really doesn't want to do it. It knows it has to do it, but your mind really doesn't want to do it. But forcing yourself at that point to perform your dharma is tapas. That is the tapas of your body. You have to do it. And that's what is joyfully and willfully engaging with life. What is dharma? Dharma is whatever is needed of you at that particular moment, depending upon the level of your awareness. If you are present in that moment and your mind is quiet, you will just know what needs to be done. You're sitting at the dining table, someone drops a big cup of water. The glass is broken, the cup has spilled all the water. What needs to be done? A mind that is restless and screaming will scream. It will first say, first exercise your coping mechanism. If you are the one who has spilled the cup and your coping mechanism is fear, first get scared. Then we'll worry about what needs to be done. If your coping mechanism is anger, it will first say, get angry first, then we'll see what needs to be done. So till the mind is filled, whatever is filled in the mind will come first. Then you will think about what action needs to be performed. With this way of living, you're ever escaping the present moment and you're ever escaping the dharma. Because at that moment, some action from you was needed. But because before you could perform an action, your mind spilled out the coping mechanism, that moment was lost. So you're ever eluding the present moment, you're ever escaping it. So Dattatraji says, the first thing is Aneka Janma Sukritihi, performing actions. So if your mind is quiet, the cup falls, water spills, glass all over, you will get up and you will say, okay, what needs to be done? Cleaning. Let me clean it. So this is how you perform your dharma, and that is your dharma at that point. The glass has spilled, water has spilled, glass has shattered, get up and clean. That's your dharma. That is only possible if the mind is quiet. That is only possible if the mind has been cultivated. That is only possible if you have dug your history, your own life history so much to understand what is my coping mechanism in life. When in the face of adversities, what is the first thing that springs forth from me? Let me first work on that. Is it fear? Is it guilt? Is it anger? What is it? Have I addressed it? only when you're mindful that if something like that happens, what springs forth first, you will know what needs to be worked upon first. Hence, all life, all experiences are only every single time showing us the mirror. Hey, look, this thing happened and this thing came about in your consciousness, which means you need to work on this. But till the grace of the Guru doesn't dawn, we don't even see all that. We just keep walking as if we are perfect. So understand what the coping mechanism is. And that's the whole point of depression to devotion. It is not just you need to be depressed to listen to depression to devotion. It is the way of understanding a few things about your own impulses, your own reactions. So, anyway, so dharma is when the mind is quiet and you know what needs to be done and you do it, whether you like it or not. You are sitting at the office, the mind is feeling lazy. The mind says, I really don't want to work here. I wish I was somewhere else. I wish I was meditating in a cave. Well, too bad. Because the dharma at that particular moment, the truth of that particular moment is you're at the office, work is pending, you need to work. That's your dharma. But because the mind is uncultivated, it starts interfering with its likes and dislikes. It says, no, I don't want to do this. I don't like this work. I don't like work. I wish the lockdown would come back again. That was such cool time. I was relaxing. Then you're not performing your dharma. So Dattatreya is saying to Parshuram, Parshuram, Aneka Janma Sukriti, when for many, many, many lifetimes you perform your dharma without mind interfering with its likes and dislikes, then the truth pulls you, makes you make that about turn. Because that inspiration saying, hey, there is something happening beyond this world, beyond the people, beyond the conversations, beyond the happenings of the world. There is something that's stable. There is something that's unmoving. Look at that. Then you start looking towards the truth. And that's what Buddha said, that, once you set once you start your journey, you can only make two mistakes. Not complete your journey or just leave it midway. So the first step towards self-realization for any jiva is dharma, swadharma. And swadharma is not label related. I have assumed a label that I'm a wife, which means I have all duties of my wife, of a wife. No, we're not talking that. Swadharma. Swa is related to your Atma. Dharma is what's required of you at this given moment. At this given moment, we have close to 20 people in this satsang. What is the dharma? The dharma of this moment is attentively listening. But if the mind is, I really don't want to be here, I don't know why I'm here, I would much rather be cooking, or I would much rather be going out, then you're letting the likes and dislikes of your mind interfere with you performing your swadharma. Either decide, I have time, I'm going to sit for satsang, or say, you know what, no, I have other things that need my attention more than the satsang, let me take care of that. Which is what happened. My parents called and I said, let me talk to them. I had to move the satsang a little bit because my parents had called. So at that point of time, I felt, no, I need to talk to them. This is my swadharma right now. If my awareness were maybe higher, maybe lower, I don't know, depending upon where my awareness was, I would have said, listen, I'll talk to you later. I have some important stuff to do. And I would have hung up on them. And I'm not saying that would have been wrong or this was correct. All I'm saying is at that moment, I felt I need to talk. Why? No need to question. That's intuition. You just know this needs to be done right now. And you do it. Maybe a year later, a similar scenario might happen. And I might tell them, listen, I'll call you after an hour or two. Who knows? And at that point, that might be right. So there is, dharma cannot be put in boxes. It is what it is at that given moment. Okay, so back to Dattatreya Maharaj saying many janmas of performing your dharma, then the first thing that happens is you have this urge to know the truth, or you develop devotion. And he says you develop devotion. That devotion, or devotion is nothing but I am committed, I am devoted to the discovery of truth. That devotion can take a form of either a guru or a deity. And then you develop this intense love. That love, that highest emotion, purifies your heart. The way divine love can purify the heart, nothing else can. So divine love purifies the heart. The mind is purified by dropping all the thoughts, all the mental constructs, all of that. When the mind and the heart are purified, Sadguru Sangatya, because you got the Manushyatva, you became a human. Because now you're performing your Swadharma, not like animals, I feel like doing it or I don't feel like doing it. Of course, they follow nature better than us. But first Manushyatva, and then you got Mumukshatva. I want to know the truth. I want my mother. Then comes Sadguru Sangatya. When the mind is purified, the heart is purified. Then comes instructions by the Guru. And that will eventually lead us to liberation, self-realization, whatever it is that you want to label. So this is, Dattatreya says to Parshuram, without this, Parshuram know that nothing can be attained. And then he goes on to describe again the same things, that there are many objects in the mind. He goes through Drit Drishya Vivek. He says, what more can I tell you, Parshuram? Listen to one thing carefully. You are saying, I'm seeing all these objects in the world. Agreed. The mind with which you are seeing the objects is able to perceive the objects. But know that mind itself is an object of observation. Parshuram, if you grasp this one statement that mind itself is an object of observation, who is observing the mind? He says the mind is being observed by the Atman, by the soul, the silent witness, as Saurabh brought about last time. The silent witness witnesses the mind and whatever the mind is witnessing. There is no witness for the witness being your Atman. So when you sit down and you see, what am I thinking? What's my mind doing right now? The one that's witnessing the mind and whatever the mind is cooking up is the Atman. And this, the ability to observe what the mind is doing, the ability to make the mind an object of observation comes with practice, comes with first creating distance from your mind, which is what we did through the Mind and Divine series. We created a distance between the mind and the observer of the mind. The observer of the mind is self-existent reality. There is nothing else that observes it. And that observer is I, is your true self, is who you truly are. That silent observer, that silent witness, that witnesses the mind and the mind witnessing the objects, and the mind cooking up its own things. So, O Parshuram, what more can I tell you? The mind itself is an object of observation. And then he says, pure mind without an object is pure knowledge. When you are continuously watching your mind, what am I thinking? What am I thinking? What am I thinking? The only thing needed is you just look at the mind and it stops. It's like, that child up to no good. You just look at the child and it just stops. That pure knowledge, the I, is eternally illumined. It is in that light that the light of the self permeates the mind. Through the mind, it permeates the world. In fact, Parshuram, the mind and the world of objects, of names and forms, is all the light of the self. He went over all this all over again. The knowledge of the self is ever illumined. It is never contaminated by the particular objects which it illuminates. Like we said, in a dark room, if there is a small opening through which the sunlight is coming in, the sunlight may touch the objects in the room, but the sunlight itself is never touched by the objects. Similarly, the light of the self emanating from within permeates the mind, permeates through the mind onto objects through the senses. But that light, give me just a second. Um, I'm going to be right back. Narayani, Jagannatha, Pahimam, Pahimam, Pahimam. So we were talking about how the self-illumined reality, or the self, or the light of the self, illuminates everything, yet remains untouched by anything. Like the closest thing to the light of the self is the space. The space houses everything, yet remains untouched by the contents in it. Then he goes on to say, that which remains after removing all thoughts and desires is Atman, your true self. He says, liberation is found neither above the sky, nor below the sky, nor on the surface of the earth. Renunciation of sankalp is the cause of liberation. He says renunciation of sankalp itself is the cause of liberation. And now comes sankalp. Who takes a sankalp? Without I, there is no sankalp. Like we were discussing in yesterday's satsang, that ek mayan mein do talwar, which means a single housing cannot have two swords. Either all there is your isht, or all there is you. Both cannot coexist. If you have given your I to your isht alone exists. If your isht alone exists, who wants to do stuff? I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. This is something we have to experience experientially. So, which is why I'm not going to dwell on this. How the I is dissolved in the Atman is a very personal affair. This is something your Isht, your Guru, will slowly guide from within, and you will experientially know when your mind is taking up a sankalp and when you're just flowing with divine will. No amount of discussion can bring about intuition. Intuition just is, it's a very personal affair. So seek refuge of your Isht. Seek refuge of the Guru. Guru alone from within, silently, will reveal what is a sankalp and what is flowing with divine will. But Dattatraji here is saying, Parshuram, know this for a fact. Renunciation of sankalp is the cause of liberation. When there is no one to take a sankalp, which means when instead of two swords, there is only one sword in it, that's liberation. Either you exist, your sadness exists, your thoughts exist, your struggles exist, or divine will exist. It's something we have to discover ourselves. Moksha is self-realization. That is why it is ever present. Only through non-attachment can one attain liberation. You have to detach, Parshuram, from everything the light is falling upon. You are stuck at the world which is being illumined by the light of the self. You are either stuck in your own thoughts, which is illumined by the light of the self. Detach, Parshuram, detach from the objects, detach from your mind, detach from your emotions, detach from what you think is causing sadness, grief. Detach from everything. Be brave, Parshuram. Detach. Detach, and when you remain without any attachment, you will be the Atman. You already are the Atman. You will realize that, wait a second, I'm none of these. I am that. I am that. I am that. There is no other way of attaining liberation. To become the doer, I am performing actions. I am doing this. I am doing that, is self-destruction. If you identify yourself with your body, it is like imagining horns on a rabbit. The self is perfect in all aspects. So there is no liberation anywhere else. Liberation is only from that which you're not. The self is perfect as it is. It is the attachment to whatever the self is not, or whatever you have assumed the self to be. He says even ordinary people know that liberation is their essential nature. It is freedom from the bondage of ignorance. Then he goes on to say that to be aware of objects is to limit your consciousness. You are that. You are the entire creation, yet you are just saying, I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that, I'm aware of this. Why? He's saying to be aware just of the objects is to limit your consciousness. When one is not aware of the objects, then consciousness is seen in its perfection. And this is what we discussed last time. Whatever it is in front of you, if you get into observing mode, you observe and you define, you conceptualize each and every object, then you're limiting your consciousness. Become a silent witness that is just aware. Instead of saying, I am aware of so and so, so and so, so and so, just be aware. That mode of being a witness. Then he goes on to say this very beautiful thing about Shiv and Shakti. He says the center of consciousness and the consciousness are virtually one and the same. If we take the center of consciousness as the flame, as the Deepak, and the consciousness as the light of the self, so the self and the light of the self, Dattatreya is telling Parshuram, they are one and the same. They cannot be separated any more than a ray of light cannot be separated from its source. If they are separated, there will be no way of proving their existence because the light cannot exist without its source. And if there is a source of light, it will emit light. Therefore, O Parshuram, all external objects, even those which are not comprehended, which means right now, whatever I see in the room, I see gross objects, right? But there is a lot more that I may be not seeing. But they're all pervaded by consciousness. How can that, which is one absolute, be divided into pieces? O Parshuram, think wisely. That object which seems to exist in consciousness is only a reflection, exactly like the reflection of the sun seen in a mirror. Parachiti, which is the Divine Mother, is the power of Lord Shiva expressing as the surface of the mirror. Everything you're seeing is in that surface of that mirror. So hearing, this is all whatever we just covered was nothing but the essence of what we have heard so far through Tripura Rahasya. That the objects, the light of the self, the mind, the Drisha Vivek, who's watching who, the mind is watching the external objects, but there is someone watching the mind. Be that, you are that, all of this. So hearing this sermon, Parshuram inquired, whatever you are saying is very beautiful. He's saying whatever you explained is good, but it seems impossible. One absolute consciousness seen as many is impossible. This is what Parshuram is saying. He's saying, you are saying there is a source of consciousness, which is the self, and the light of the self. The light of the self itself is the mind and the objects and everything. It has become everything. He's saying, nah, it seems impossible for me to believe that. I agree that the objects are seen with the help of consciousness. I'm not denying that. Oh, my dear Guru, I'm not denying that the objects I'm seeing because of the light of the self. But you are saying the objects itself are nothing but the light. That I'm having a little difficulty understanding. King Janak said that if the mind is free from all conflicting thoughts, then mind attains one-pointedness. This is the prime means of attaining the highest knowledge. That is the real nature of Atman. I agree. He says, okay, mind becomes one inwardly turned, it becomes one-pointed, it realizes the self, the highest knowledge, the Atman. Okay, I have no problems in that. But now he's saying, Parshuram is posing the question, but if the Atman did not have the mind as its instrument, then how could there be differentiation between objects? This is animate, this is inanimate. The mind is the cause of both bondage and liberation, right? If the mind is outwardly focused on the objects, it is the cause of bondage. If the mind is clean, free, empty, it is the cause of liberation. How can the mind become Atman when mind is only an instrument? This he is saying because King Janak was explaining the mind has two states, the state of illumination, the state of deliberation. So here he is posing, how can the mind become Atman when the mind is only an instrument? Mind without desire is the means for liberation. Yet there seems to be some duality in your philosophy. Oh Guru, there seems to be some problem here. You are saying mind is nothing but an object for the Atman. But you also told me that the mind has the state of illumination, which means it is flooded with the self. Anything that is flooded with the self is the self. So he's saying, you're saying the mind can become Atman. If it is empty, it will get flooded, right? With the Chit Shakti. Okay, hold on to that thought. But you're also saying the mind is an instrument used by the Atman for the sake of deliberation, for the sake of knowing this is this object, this is this object, which means there is some contradiction here. Explain to me, how can the same mind that you're saying is full of self, has become the self, is again able to get into the state of deliberation? He says, usually in daily life, when the mind becomes deluded, it is not considered to be truth. Delusion itself is not untrue. How can there be an absence of duality? I don't get it. That's what Parshuram is asking. That which is non existent cannot function, but all the objects of the world seem to exist, and through them the work of the world continues. Right? He's saying, okay, mind becomes one pointed, mind becomes empty, it has become the self. If in that state, how will the objects of the world seem to exist? And how will, through those objects that seem to exist, will the work of the world continue? So tell me, how can they be unreal? How can that be unreal, which is the means of attaining the absolute? Because without the mind, I cannot know the self. Because you are saying, make the mind pure, make the mind inward, make the mind one pointed, it will be flooded with the light of the self. You will realize the self. But the same mind is out there recognizing the objects and performing the actions of the world. Please tell me, Gurudeva, why is everyone going through delusion? I am terribly perplexed. Dattatreya, the knower of truth, was pleased with such a good question and began explaining. And again, we talked about how the Guru will never waste his pranic shakti on someone who doesn't want to know. He comes with, with a preconditioned idea that I already know, I just want a confirmation from him. For such a person, the Guru will never waste his time. He'll just sit there smiling. But if you truly go with, I don't know and I want to know, that the Guru can fulfill. That's when Guru uses his Shakti to, give you. Because every word coming from a Sadguru is nothing but truth. It's energy. It can hit the spot and it can enlighten us. So Dattatreya, the knower of truth, was pleased with such a good question and began explaining. Parshuram, you've asked a wonderful question. We've already discussed this, but as long as one is not fully satisfied, one should continue contemplating. If the disciple does not express his doubts in front of his Gurudev, how can these doubts be removed? All individuals have different types of intellects, and there are different methods of removing their doubts. Therefore, without asking questions in his own specific manner and with specific purpose, how can one overcome his doubts? You see, such a beautiful explanation given by Dattatreya. He says everyone is made differently, which is why one answer cannot fit all. One answer of Guru goes to 50 disciples. Everyone takes the answer according to their own intellect. So Dattatreya is saying, therefore, if you don't ask questions in your own specific manner and with your own specific purpose, how can you overcome your doubts? If you want to know something, but the purpose of you wanting to know that is totally different than the other disciple who wants to know the same thing, but the purpose being totally different, then he will get answer according to his purpose and his intellect. You will get it according to your purpose and your intellect. So putting questions in front of Gurudev is the proper way of receiving knowledge from him. The one absolute reality seems to be seen in many ways. This is possible in the way a mirror is, but because of numerous images, it is seen in many ways. He keeps going back to the example of the mirror. He says, look at the mirror. No matter how many objects you are seeing, it is just the surface of the mirror that you're seeing. In the dream state, the mind is the creator, the mind is the seer, and the seen. Similarly, pure consciousness alone assumes all forms, the seer, the process of seeing, and the objects seen. We saw how the dream world and the waking world, the dream state and the waking state, are really are actually the same. You can say dream state is equal to waking state. Because in the dream state, the mind becomes the creator of the dream. The mind becomes the seer of the dream, and the entire scene is the mind. Similarly, even in the waking state, pure consciousness alone assumes all the forms. It is the seer, it is the process of seeing, and the objects seen. Even without light, a blind man can sense an object. Although he does not see its form, he experiences it through touch. But in the absence of consciousness, nobody is able to experience anything. So he gives the example of a blind person. Blind person, although he cannot see, he can touch and feel it. But he's saying in the absence of pure consciousness, you cannot experience anything, which is what we experience in deep sleep. In deep sleep, all there is the self. There are no objects, there are no relations, there are no burdens, there are no thoughts, there are no emotions, none. Nothing is experienced. The so-called the world is not experienced. Without a mirror, no reflection can be seen. That is why it seems as though the mirror and reflection are one and the same. Similarly, without consciousness, the mind cannot exist. Because in deep sleep, there is no mind. As soon as we wake up, the mind awakens as I. And then it starts filling up whatever junk it wants to fill it up with. Just as in a dream objects in the mind become one. Similarly, the mind does not have a separate existence in the waking state. Exactly like in a dream, in the waking state, the mind seems to function in the world. So, like in the dream state, the mind becomes the creator, the seer, and the scene of the entire dream. Similarly, when you wake up, the mind becomes the objects, the performing actions, and everything. In the dreaming state, cutting a tree with an axe is imaginary. O Parshuram, if the activity in the dream is not true, how can the means of that dream be true? I hope you're still awake, and I hope you're able to follow along. Dattatreya is saying, in the dream, you cut a tree. But you know, when you wake up, the tree was not real, neither was the axe real, neither was the process of cutting real. So, how can the source of the tree, the axe, the cutting be real? If the product is unreal, how can the source be real? The source being the mind. Similarly, Parshuram, in the waking state, the objects you see, the actions you perform, everything is just emanation from the mind in the state of deliberation. Human beings do not have horns. Therefore, to believe that one is being injured by the horns of a human is false. Get rid of this false imagination, O Parshuram. In the dreaming state, the mind is the cause of false projections. During the dreaming state, the cause of the dream itself is the mind. So at any point of time, let's say we have already concluded, okay, the entire dreaming state is false. That's not a problem. We can think, oh, that was just a dream. The problem comes in the waking state. In the waking state, which is why they say only the present moment. The present moment alone is the truth. Because if you're in the present moment, you're dealing with what is. What is the direct source of illumination from the self. You're just looking at what is, what is, what is. When does the projections of the mind begin? The projections of the mind begin when you start going into the past. Oh, it was like that, but now this is what it is. That is the truth. What is the truth. But the mind slowly slips into how it was or what should it be. But if the mind is in what is, you see the self, the light of the self through the mind, and into outside the mind into whatever is. That is the only truth, which is why the great masters say the present moment. This moment is the only truth. Because the light of the light of the self permeating through the mind, illumining this moment and whatever is going on in this moment. This alone is the truth. Projections of the mind in the past and the future, in the dream state, they're all false. O Parshuram, know this. Pure consciousness, through its sovereignty, sometimes expresses itself as the seer and sometimes as the seen. At times, it remains in a state of samadhi. So the pure consciousness sometimes expresses itself as the seer. Who is watching the objects outside? The seer. The seer is the mind at that point. Other times as the seen, which is the objects itself. If I'm focusing on one particular, let's say the Vigraha is in front of me and my focus is on the Vigraha. So my own pure consciousness is permeating through the mind, through my senses onto the Vigraha and is expressing itself as the Vigraha. If I trace it back, it is now in the mind, watching what's going on in the mind. What is my mind thinking? Or sometimes it comes back into the self. It dissolves into the self in a state of samadhi. O son of Bhrigu, listen. Pure consciousness is all pervading in itself. Therefore, it cannot be compared with the void because it is self-illumined. Apart from this, there is no difference. He's saying the self is all, everything. At this particular moment, the self, the light of the self permeating through the mind onto the senses and onto the object, this one line, if you were to draw, this alone is the reality, this moment. Now, if the mind says, oh, what am I going to do after the satsang? What was I doing before? All that is a projection. All that, because here, understand that Parshuram is desperate and dying for the truth. He doesn't want to hear anything about that which is not truth, which is why this particular moment alone is the truth. Because consciousness pervades all, there is no difference between the self and the void. Oh, we missed a point here. Like the void, the self is perfect, subtle, pure, unborn, infinite, formless, the source of all, uncontaminated, immanent, and transcendent. The void does not have these qualities because if you take the steps back to creation, you will see the five great elements from gross to subtle to subtler to subtlest. Subtlest being the Akash. He is saying, let's say you go all the way to Akash. Okay? Just like the Akash, the self is perfect, subtle, pure, unborn, infinite, formless, source of all, uncontaminated, transcendent. The void does not have these qualities because that which gives the space these qualities is beyond the space. In reality, pure consciousness is called the real self. Among all this, the self alone exists. The pure self is Atman, which is why mother's name is Atma Vidya, Mahavidya, Shri Vidya, Kama Sevita. Shri Vidya is Atma Vidya. This Atma Vidya is Mahavidya. Atma Devata, the self, is the Divine Mother. The ignorant conceive of Atman in the form of space in the same way an owl perceives sunlight in the form of darkness. The wise man sees the void as that self illumined consciousness. The supreme power exists beyond the phenomenal world, yet manifests itself in many forms. Through her power, which is Maya, O Parshuram, she assumes different forms. She assumes different forms. If you look at the television, on one screen we see so many things. When something like a TV screen is able to show all of these scenes with depths, with heights, with emotions, with happenings, why can't the Divine Mother, with her infinite power, show this beautiful television of life with all of these scenes happening like a movie? Yet, if you touch the screen, there is nothing. She appears in many ways, but this is because of the distortion of the mind. Actually, she is pure consciousness, self existent reality. Again, coming back to the mind. If the mind is purified, if the mind is empty, there will be no more distortions. The light of the self will pass like the pane of a clean glass, clear with no distortions. If the glass has stuff, the light will be disturbed and it will create distortions. It will create images. But again, if the mind is empty, 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 without any sankalpas, without any vikalpas, without any desires, without any emotions, thoughts, then the light of the self will pass through the mind without any distortions, and you will be able to see things as they are. By the veil of Maya, she seems to be many, though she is only one pure consciousness beyond all comprehension. Her veiling power confuses those who have limited knowledge, just like a magician confuses his audience. Everyone goes to watch the magic show knowing it's just a show, yet everyone gets immersed in it. He is able to create illusion and fool the wisest of wise. If just a mere magician, a mortal, can create illusion and fool the people, Her Majesty, the great Mother Divine, by the veil of her Maya, she seems to be many. Though she is only one pure consciousness beyond all comprehension, Chireka Rasarupini, yet Her Majesty's Maya is such that she will create this illusion. So don't try to be a warrior and go to war with Divine Mother, saying, I'll cut through your Maya. It's not possible. Mama Maya Duratyaya. Lord Krishna says, listen, Arjun, what can I tell you? I have placed my own Maya in this world. No one. Mama Maya Duratyaya. Atishay, no one can cross this Maya. I alone, I alone will deliver them from this Maya. So again, the bottom line is seek refuge. Mother alone is the giver of knowledge. Mother alone can take the veil of Maya. O Parshuram, Supreme Consciousness, through her pure power of sovereignty, allows herself to appear in many forms. Egotism is the cause of separation and is the same as limited buddhi or called avidya. Like we said, in one housing, only one sword can go. If you want to exist, you want mother to exist, it's not going to happen. Either you exist or she exists. Any amount of special feeling within, any amount of feeling, oh my God, this thought is worth having, you are in there. The housing is only lodging your sword. If you want mother to be there, pay no attention to the blabberings of your mind. Pay no attention to what you're feeling. Just continuously be established in her refuge. Don't think you're special. Don't think you've fallen from some great planet. Nothing. There is nothing. To become so ordinary. Sadhguru has this beautiful quote, which I absolutely love. He says, become so ordinary that you become extraordinary. That's what it is, right? Become extraordinary. Not an ounce of special feeling remaining within. Become a nobody. So he's saying egotism is the only cause of separation. By not contemplating on the real self and by being dissipated in the external world, many logicians and learned pundits get deluded. Unless someone makes practical application of his guru's teachings about reality and unreality and employs them for self-realization, merely listening to instructions cannot bring the fruit of liberation. Therefore, Parshuram, experience everything I have taught you so far through your inward and one-pointed mind. He's saying merely listening to instructions is not going to bring about the fruit of instruction. Start applying practically all the teachings of your guru about what is real, what is unreal. Employ them for self-realization. Just listening to instructions and feeling, oh my God, that feels good, it's not going to help. Remove the different forms of the world and be aware of the underlying unity and diversity. That supreme power is self-illumined because it is free from illusions. Therefore, she is the creator of the pause, and the pause itself is yet beyond all. All insentient objects rest in her, and all existence depends on the self-existent Atman. This is all revision of whatever we have done so far. Everything exists because the self exists, because the light of the self permeates through the mind, it permeates through the senses onto the objects. Your world exists. The light doesn't exist, the world doesn't exist. These objects have no power to illumine themselves. Therefore, they are not self-existent. Parshuram, the self-existent consciousness does not depend on any external power for illumination. It is the highest of all. It is not found in insentient objects. So Dattatreya Ji is saying that Parshuram, understand that these objects that you keep thinking are real, are real, are real. They have no power to illumine themselves. Till you, the seer of the objects, does not exist, those objects truly don't exist. Therefore, self-conscious reality is free from diversities and remains untouched by limitation. It is not like the images in the mirror. O Parshuram, such all-pervading consciousness cannot be divided because it is self-existent reality. The same consciousness is all pervading one absolute reality. Again and again and again, go back to the, the flame, the source of the light and the light. The source of the light gives out the light. The self is the source of the light, and the light is permeating all around you as your world. As the light and warmth are inseparable from fire, similarly, the absolute reality is inseparable from blissful joy. And this is what we talked about last time. You, you are the center of your universe. It is your light that is supporting everything. It is you who's supporting everything. No one else is separate from you. Where is room for jealousy? Where is room for hatred? You alone are everything. That is also called Maya Shakti, which can make the impossible possible. The appearance of limitation is the appearance of the non-self. This is called avidya, jarashakti, shunya, prakriti. The first stage of limitation is called non-existence or void or austerity, darkness or beginning of creation. The appearance of void is due to ignorance. Now here, give me just a second. Okay, so we will end the session here because from here a different topic starts. We will take up that topic at the next meeting. We shouldn't have spiritual indigestion. So if anyone has anything to share, okay, you can just unmute yourself and contribute.
Anu, do we have time for 2 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And we can hear you.
No, today I am in the signal zone, so I don't think my voice should disappear. I just wanted to add one small thing. This very beautiful line where he is saying, unless someone makes practical application of his guru's teachings about reality and unreality and employs them for self-realization, merely listening to instructions cannot bring the fruit of liberation. Therefore, Parshuram, experience everything I have taught you so far through your inward and one-pointed mind. I have been receiving questions and concerns from a lot of chat messages saying that I don't know anything, I don't know mantras, I don't know this, that, puja, anything, I don't know. And what should I do? Because what if this life just goes away without learning anything? Whatever you got to learn, it comes from Guru Vakyam. Simply listening to the Guru Vakyam and saying, wow, so nice, such nice words full of wisdom. What good is it? Because whatever instructions are given from a guru are mantra. You need not know a Vedic mantra. If he is saying something, that itself is a mantra. If you put his sayings and his teachings into life action, it becomes puja, and your every action becomes mother's pradakshina. And this is something, if you read the translations and meanings of any Manas Puja, it will all say the same thing, that every action becomes a divine offering. This when you are continuously reading, at least say for intellectual understanding only. I haven't experienced the self, no problem. But at least if you have the knowledge, like we had seen in the previous chapter, the knowledge that the self is not different from your own being, and your higher self is nothing but the divine functioning within you, like the Supreme Being's own reflection in the mirror. What exactly does this mean? That Supreme Being, which is so pure, and all your sadhana is about bringing the purity so that you are somewhere able to relate to that which is the purest, unblemished source. So I was listening to this very beautiful satsang discourse on Sri Suktam, and it says that there are three things. You are continuously doing some nitya karma, say for 10 minutes, doing some puja with whatever bhav you have. That is your nitya karma. You are spending in wakeful awareness maximum time chanting and doing a japa. That forms an upasana, because you have raised your asan with the vibratory awareness to your isht. But tapas is different. Tapas is different from doing your nitya karma and doing an upasana. Tapas is bringing every knowledge that your guru has given into action and using this awareness to see the divine manifestation in everything, in everybody, in every action. Even if you are just brooming the floor, झाड़ू लगा रहे हैं, toilet साफ कर रहे हैं, every action is puja. There is no sense of duality. This whole Dvait Bhav has just crumbled down because all you see is the blazing light of the self. It is just an explosion of this awareness that there is no difference between that and that I am. And the verse in Sri Suktam, which one second, I'll just open this. आदित्यवर्णे तपसोऽधिजातो वनस्पतिस्तव वृक्षोऽथ बिल्वः तस्य फलानि तपसानुदन्तु मायान्तरायाश्च बाह्य अलक्ष्मीः. So tapasanudantu. Adityavarne is the light of the sun. Tapasadhijato vanaspatistava vrikshot. Now, vanaspati, the entire essence and tattva of all the being, the entire nature, the prakriti itself. In that, the vriksharaj is bilva. Tapasodhijato, when your inner tapas, when everything that you do is only seeing mother in everything, that is the real tapas. Then this aditya, the light of the sun is going to shine so bright that the real abundance of Shri, the auspiciousness of Shri is going to come forth. So this is something that really touched my heart when I was hearing this explanation. And why Bilva? Bilva has these three foliated leaf, which is the Trigunatmak Shakti, which is the three states of being. And somebody whose tapas has taken him beyond the three, the sleeping, sushupti, jagrat, waking, and dreaming state, to Turiya and to Turiyatit, where everything is awareness. That is why this Bilva, this awareness itself is the light of the mother, the light of the self, the light of your own higher self. So whether you know mantras, you don't know mantras, you know puja, you don't know puja, you are just giving yourself some kind of satisfaction like a kid. Okay, I'm chanting, I'm reciting, I'm learning. बच्चा खुश हो जाता है. My mother, she used to, when I was a kid, she used to play this cross and zero, that little thing on paper with me. And she used to make me win, and I was a kid that and I used to, Mama, मैं जीत गई, मैं जीत गई. And that time I would never understand that this mother of mine, just to see me smile, she would do this, just to see this joy on my face, she would keep doing this, and she would purposely make me win. Similarly is our guru. He will give us methods, instructions. Okay, just to uh, actually do what your mind, instead of dispersing in so many directions, at least starts getting focused one way for whatever time you have gotten engaged with um, instructions, pujas. Okay, the end reason for doing all of this is self purification, purify. This is a nirantar dirghakalin exercise, because you tend to gather every day some muck, just like your house needs to be cleaned every day, your dishes need to be cleaned after every usage, your mind, your body has to be cleaned every day. And this is the best way of establishing connection with your own higher self. When there is a dvait bhav, in bhakti, you would want to have a dialogue with your isht. You may bring him in or her in front of you. Okay, this is mother and this is me. But Advait, she is no different. She's absolutely no different. And then when this happens, uh, for you have actually immortalized. Um, you have achieved nirvana. Who's nirvana? Jivan mukt. Not because you're going to live for many years. Of course, there are saints who have lived many years. They have done kaya kalp. But you, as your presence, will remain for many years to come. Adi Shankaracharya lived barely for 32 years. He only lived for 32 years. But the legacy of his teachings that he left behind is what all we are reading. Just in the bare age of 32, that's all. So, and then this is again work of lifetimes and lifetimes. So this one lifetime, when you have the grace of a guru, just follow his teaching. That is the mantra, that is the puja. This is that I wanted to add.
Thanks, Mansi. Thanks. Anyone else has any questions? Okay, I have a message here and it says, I can't focus during satsang. My mind goes here and there. Well, that's because you're listening and I'm speaking. Imagine if I would listen. I would also be probably going here and there. Take it easy. Um, no other questions. Okay. All right. Well, we'll call it done. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vashishyate. Chantal, go ahead. You can unmute yourself, Chantal.
Hi, Anu. Sorry, you
Go
just
ahead, my
called.
love.
Okay. I like you said many beautiful, beautiful things, and it was a nice revision of a lot of things that we had been going through. But I wanted to clarify something with you, which really touched me, and I think that I need to improve on it. You said you can't have you, the I, and your isht. Both can't coexist. Hmm?
Hmm.
So, how can you give us, like in a practical day-to-day living, how can we practice it so that it becomes more of a reality? Because of course we have our ish, with Maman, we pray, we meditate, and all of it. But sometimes we also not. Sometimes, often we get caught up. That we are the doer, and there's the Maya, and there's a lot of things that are playing. But so I like that concept of there can't be two people coexisting. It's either you or the Isht. So, how can you give us like little tips to put the Isht more in our day of living and for the I to disappear?
That's definitely a good question. So the first thing, remember the I,
Mm-hmm.
the various expressions of I. Okay, attack the various expression or address the various expressions of I, from gross to subtle to subtler to subtlest. You cannot just address the subtlest aspect of the expression of I to begin with, because the gross is still unaddressed. Not just in your case, I'm just saying in general. Okay, so understand the gross aspects of I are anger, these big emotions, anger, guilt, fear, um, hatred, or, you know, those are the gross expressions. The more you address the gross expressions, the more you rise above the gross expressions, you then become qualified to address the subtler expressions. I, the doer, is the subtlest expression. I, the doer, is the subtlest expression. Don't try to get there unless you have addressed the gross expressions. First are the emotions. Know how to handle your emotions. That's the first thing. If you, I hope you were able to hear me. Okay. If you, um, what is that? Okay. So let's talk about emotions first. If you're experiencing anger, the first thing is, let me lash out or let me sulk. There's no problem in both. But here we are trying to reduce or diminish the I. So understand why the anger arose and address the seed of that anger. Anger directly arises from expectations or desires. Unfulfilled desires, unfulfilled expectations will lead to anger, which is why we did that exercise of write down all your expectations from everyone around you. And then understand the list multiplied by 10 times is the weight of expectations from you. Hence, knowing that, be kind to yourself and drop those expectations. And then there is sadness. You feel sadness. The first thing is, let me distract myself. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling sad. Oh, let me go eat something good, or let me eat some junk. Let me go for a walk. Let me talk to someone. Let me sit down and pray. Let me try to meditate. All these are actions trying to avoid sadness. The sadness has already arrived. Just allow yourself to feel sad without attaching a story to it. Just sit down and say, I'm feeling sad. Don't fill in the blank and say, I'm feeling sad because so and so, so and so, so and so did so and so, so and so, so and so, because they had to do. And then there's a big story to tell. The trick with emotions is feel what you're feeling without attaching a story. Assign a chair, sit down. If you're feeling sad, allow yourself to feel sad. When you allow yourself, when you totally accept that emotion the way it is without attaching a story to it, it disappears faster. So address the gross aspects of the expressions of I first. Then comes your own thinking about others, about how others should be, how they should behave, how he should behave, how she should behave, how I should be. Drop all those. They're all self created. Let people be who they want to be. Work on your own inner sanctity and peace. Then you start moving towards, then you have already addressed the gross aspect, the subtle aspect, the subtler aspects. Then you come to what Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, I, the doer, becomes an instrument in divine's hands and says, Mother, I do this for you. I cook for my family in your love. I love the world in your love. Then you do things, I, the doer, becomes I, the doer of the divine will. You cannot address I, the doer, to begin with. If you are still plagued with emotions, if you're still plagued with wrathful thinking, if your own thoughts, if your own mental constructs, if your own thinking is still plaguing you, there is still a sense of I'm special. I am holding on to these things. These things need to be there. I cannot drop these things because this is my treasured um, opinions and my treasured thoughts and my treasured desires. They're important. Any sense of importance that you give to your mind and its contents, I still exist. I alone exist. The more you are willing to give up on this importance that you place to yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, you're like, they're just fleeting, no big deal. Don't, talk to yourself. I tell myself, oh no, don't overreact. It's just a little bit of anger here and there. It's okay. Just keep moving. Just keep moving. You're feeling sad, sit down, feel sad. People are acting a certain way, let them act anew. Don't interfere. They're acting according to what they think is right. You act according to what you think is right. It's not about them, Anu. It's about you. It's about your liberation. Be focused. Talk to yourself. I talk to myself all day long. And I remind myself, sometimes I have this thought, I should do this. And I'm like, Anu, what the hell are you saying? What do you want to do? If you fall dead the next minute, you're not going to do anything. Stop cooking up these things that I have to do this, I have to do that. Sit quiet. Mother will tell you what's the next step. Just sit quiet. Just shut up and sit quiet. I talk to myself all day because I identify these spikes of I. So the practical application is go from gross to subtle to subtler to subtlest. What are you thinking all day? How are you feeling all day? Is the first question. If you're feeling anything, if the isht is all there is present, then you'll feel peace, you'll feel love. If that's not happening, there is someone else existing. Identify and eliminate. So the practical application is keep answering. What am I thinking? How am I feeling? What am I thinking? How am I feeling? If I'm thinking this person is not doing this for me, there is an expectation. There is a desire. And if I'm thinking this person is not doing this for me, I am still important. Or if I'm thinking this person is not acting like this, which means I have a mental image of how this person should act. And that mental image is so important, this person better act according to that. How we subtly give importance to our own existence instead of glorifying the existence of our Ishta. This is how we slowly shatter our own ego so that Udyat Bhanu Sahasrabha. So mother can express herself in like the illumination of 1,000 suns. Talk to yourself all day. Keep reminding your mind, where are you going? You don't know anything. You are a nobody. These things that you're thinking, they're irrelevant. In this Ananta Koti Brahmanda Janani Divya Vigraha, your thoughts, your thinking is irrelevant, Anu. Don't waste your time. You are a nobody, Anu. It's not your merits. It's her mercy. It's his mercy. You have done nothing. You might sit and think of all the good things you have done. Come on, let's sit and think of all the bad stuff that you have done. And you think you are worthy just because of your merit? You are worthy because you are her child. Talk to yourself. Don't be scared. No one else is going to come talk to me. Because the subtle rise of ego, only I can identify that. And as soon as I do, I talk to myself, say, just shut up, honey. You really don't know. Just shut up. Just listen. See what's been shown to you. Listen. Apart from this, there is nothing else that's needed of an instrument. An instrument cannot act of its own accord. It is in the hands of a master. The master says, oh, let me use this instrument for this purpose. The instrument just follows orders. But for that, the instrument cannot have its own agenda. So keep identifying how your day has been going. What have you been thinking? How have you been feeling? Are you allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling, or are you distracting yourself? Does that make sense?
Perfect. For me, it was perfect. I got my answer. Thank you very much, Anu.
You're most welcome.
Thank
So,
you.
on that note, if anyone else would like to add,
To me personally, you know, you would want to do anything and everything and just dissolve your own self for whom? Only if you're in love with someone. For that person, you will just cross any limits to see that person happy. And if you have that, that's where bhakti and love for Divine Mother also becomes such a beautiful, if you want to say tool, use the word tool, okay, a beautiful tool to just dissolve your being who is trying to do and do. When you are so much in love, all you see is her, all you do is her work, all you all you are is her. There is nothing but her when you're so much in love. So if you can fall in love with her to that degree, the mind doesn't exist. You will say, what, mother, you're sending so many emails today? What, mother, why are you getting so angry? If somebody is getting angry, you just don't see anything else. Mother, why have you taken the shape of this Mahamari? Mother, calm down. All you see is her, good, bad, nothing. There is just her. This is one, why I love this song so much, Shakole Tomar Ichha. Because everything she is doing, where the mind thinks that I'm doing, I'm not doing. The world thinks I'm doing, I'm not doing. I'm not saying this for the sake of saying, you truly, really feel that, because she she penetrates into you the way literally she is impregnated into you and you into her. To the that that is why bhakti is such a dissolving. Again, if you want to say tool, say tool. To me, it's not a tool. It's the only thing that can just wipe off the doer. To try and do these things in mindfulness becomes very difficult. Okay, you will know, everybody knows what is right and what is wrong, yet we keep faltering. But if you love someone, whether you like doing it, you don't like doing it, if you are in that period of courtship, you may not like a certain flavor of ice cream, you will still eat because you want to spend time with that person. Where your likes and dislikes have gone to hell. All that is for the one you love. So that's why if you can dissolve yourself in love with Mother Divine, there is no better way to, only have her khadak in the mayan. That is why the khadak mala, is just going to chop off the ego head. doing her worship every day with Sri Suktam and Khadakmala, getting the essence in your being, to me, this is what it means. It may be different for everybody.
Good one. Kadakmala, I like that. So on that note, Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Narayani Namostute. Narayani Namostute. Narayani Namostute.